This is your T20 World Cup wrap-up show by everybody's 8th favourite podcast. But you could be forgiven into thinking it's the World Test Championship with some of these net run rates. Only a few months ago, we had people complaining that the game was favouring batters in the IPL with teams pushing 300 in an innings. And a few months later in New York, we haven't passed 300 in not one, not two, not three, but in not even 4 innings. Just let that sink in for a little bit while we play some intro music.
Oh, that is brilliant. It's a hero maximum. On the ground, down the ground, another hero maximum.
And welcome back to the good, the bad, and the land of the free, where we bring you up to date on the T20 World Cup with some good stories and some bad stories. No prizes for guessing what the bad story will be today. And also, we've got a free segment where, if you let us, we're going to take you on a little bit of a ride. This show is brought to you by Maximum Cricket. My name is Matt Hunter, or Munter, if you will. I am joined by my co-host, Jackson Latham, or Jacko for short. And it wouldn't be a YouTube show if I didn't ask you all, if you don't mind, of course, to hit that subscribe button. Obviously, we wouldn't want to inconvenience our faithful listeners, but if you could spare a couple of seconds, it does help fuel this show. And if you're enjoying the ride that TMC is trying to take you on, then you know we'll need some fuel. Jacko, welcome back. We talked a few days ago about it being a soft start to the World Cup. She's in full flow now. Games coming thick and fast, sometimes even overlapping. Are you happy with how the Cup is progressing? And how hard is it to keep up?
Yes, it's a bit going
That's
on,
what we're
I
here
think.
for.
Yeah. I mean, it's what we've got to a week. We could have, a pot a day at this rate. There's a bit going on. I don't know. It feels like when you go to 2 countries, there's just more going on, isn't there? Because you've got time zone stuff, you've got nation stuff, you've got different climates. As you said, we've got a sort of a deep dive into things a bit later, but yeah, you've got different kits. But New York and West Indies is pretty far away. But yeah, we'll get into that later. I mean, tournaments in full swing. We've seen some big dogs play now. Little bit of muscle sort of flex going on from some teams and some players as well, to hint for later. But starting into full swing here, which is nice.
Yeah, it is. It's tough to keep up with these games. They are coming very thick and fast. I probably be lucky if I watched a full game. I've kept up. I've watched every highlight. Some of them longer, some of them shorter. You'll probably figure out which games I probably didn't want to dive into the full highlights. There were a couple of highlight packages where they're chucking in just like guys running 2, which is never a good sign. Probably not the best highlights packages going around. Ironically, the best game is probably the first game, the USA-Canada game. Like, still stands up. I think maybe we keep a wee running.
Feels like it's been the only
game, but I don't
even game.
I don't know how. I think that's the best quality game so far.
Game of the tournament so far.
Yeah, and it's nice to see some different teams playing. I mean, even some of the rougher teams. There's some diamonds in the rough, of course, which we will get into in our next segment, which is obviously something good. Jacko, anything else you want to touch on, or should we just dive on into the something good segment, which is loaded? It's a loaded class.
Yeah, I think as you say, like, there's so much going on. There's plenty of good, there's plenty of bad, and there's plenty of interesting. So I can just dig right in.
So I mean, this is sort of why we sort of ran this show. It's this is our something good segment where there's always going to be a bit of negative energy around in those tournaments. Funny enough, we are culprits. We've got a something bad segment. But this segment is to highlight all the good in the game and the Cup thus far. We're just trying to we'll mention as many games as possible, many good stuff, and then what we're going to do is just going to dive in a little bit into some of the bigger topics, if you will. There's just so much cricket to sort of dive into all of it. So we had the following games since we last recorded. South Africa beat Sri Lanka by 6 wickets. Afghanistan beat Uganda by 125 runs. Scotland and England was a washout. Netherlands beat Nepal by 6 wickets. India beat Ireland by 8 wickets. Uganda beat PNG by 3 wickets. And Australia beat the plucky Oman by 39 runs this afternoon. yeah, as I said, we'll start with Afghanistan. I mean, they were outstanding. Gurbaz, Ibrahim, they put on 154 on the first wicket in 14 overs. They were looking at posting over 200. Faruqi, the left arm seamer, he took 5 for 9 of 4, and they ended up winning that game by an innings, which is very really seen in the T20 circuit. So definitely put their hands up. Definitely makes me very nervous as a Caps fan heading into that game on Saturday.
New proposition for World Cups, if we're going to have 20 teams.
Bonus points.
Yeah, I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. I reckon every team gets a big dick play bonus point option where they can double their points, but when they bowl a team out or the 20 finishes, they have to give them another 10 wickets and 20 overs to further chase it. So they've essentially got 40 overs and 20 wickets to chase it, and it's double or nothing. If they don't get it, you get double bonus, you get double points, and if not, no one gets any points.
Does their 20 overs like reset as well? So they get another set of like 20 overs. So it's just a real.
So if you bowl them out in 8 overs, they get another 20 overs, and have to try and obviously chase the remaining runs.
I like that. I like double or nothing as well. So it's like double points.
Yeah, double or nothing.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Imagine having a double or nothing sort of come in, and you win by like 30 runs, but you have to double down because that's your only choice to make the finals. You'd be plenty in it.
But going on, some outrageous fields. We'll copyright that one. Rishabh Pant, he's just being back, I think, is awesome. He's just fun. He's just fun to watch. He plays some outrageous shots. He hit that 6 to win the game was crazy. Just there, he does that random reverse lap over the keeper for 6. I've seen him doing it off Jimmy Anderson, Archer, I think even. Just an arrogant way of winning the game. He hit 36 off 26 in his return. Like, guy could barely walk 12 months ago, so that's a cool story. From that same game, Kohli and Rohit opening together. Just good. Just looks nice. Like, just most famous opening pair of all time. It just, like, you've got Rohit, you've got Kohli walking out. That's a big dick play. That is like, oh shit, this is big dog. Like, we're talking 2 of the all-time greats just strolling out to the middle. That's scary stuff for any opposition. But a shout out for Scotland and their batting. Some say the rain saved England. Kind of agree potentially, because they were 90 for none after 10. England needed 109 off 10 with the Duckworth-Lewis. They look sharp. That's good for it's good from Scotland. Nepal, they did go down, but the sort of the story of that game was the support that they had, which I was unaware of how much of a big deal this Nepal crowd is. Like, I mean, I do remember when they qualified, there was they did have like a massive crowd, like a lot of punters sort of on just standing on houses and things like that. But this is sort of another level. Like, you very rarely see kind of like, what are those like watch zones? Like, you sort of don't see them
like
that
a fan
often
zone.
nowadays. Like, fan zones. And like for Nepal to have that for a group game where, let's be real, most of these games they're probably going to lose. So to just have like what looks like in these pitches, close to I'm looking at 10 to 20,000 people. Just packed. Not even at the game, just to watch a big screen. That's awesome. We need to bottle that up.
Yeah, get Nepal good and get a World Cup there at pace.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome stuff. Yeah. Oman not backing down to Australia, verbally, anyways. For content, Oman skipper, he was quoted before the game, with the Australian team, they used to have a few good players with good techniques in the past, like Smith and Marnus, but I don't think they have many now. They look to hit big. They only try to go for sixes, i.e., if you read between the lines, they don't bat properly, it's always a good insult. It's always a good insult, even when you're losing. And Stoinis hit 6 sixes today, which we'll get into. But we'll actually, he is. The form of Marcus Stoinis is another good, because it's just good. it's just good when he's doing well. He seems like a good bloke. 67 red off 36 balls, 6 sixes. Also took 3 for 8 off 3. Third player to make 50 and take 3 poles in a T20 World Cup game. Shane Watson did it twice. Dwayne Bravo the other. And last, just a nice feel-good story. Uganda winning their first World Cup game. What's that?
Darren Sammy didn't get it done?
Potentially he did it if you totaled up the whole 2016 World Cup. He might have made 50 runs, took 3 poles, but didn't quite. So the one game part sort of ruled him out a little bit. So that was unfortunate for Darren, but he had a World Cup winners medal. So
you can shout outs on the spot. So
I've done nothing. So
love to have him on.
Yeah. And then probably the last story, just a feel good stuff. Uganda winning their first World Cup game. I mean, cool story. They got demolished against Afghanistan. There was a bit of a concern. I'm going to butcher this name, but Frank Nubuga. Look, I'm going to get it wrong. Sorry. 2 for 4 off 4, the best economy in a T20 World Cup game. Just nice to see. It's always good. Those stories are always good. They always hit. Jacko, there's a bit there, but to unpack, what stood out for you?
Few things. The Afghans team, just I'll touch on them briefly. I think we sort of spoke about them in the preview and during the last World Cup that they're definitely starting to get out of that minnow sort of realm. To see them sort of, we're only a couple of games into this tournament, but to see them sort of prove that the last World Cup wasn't a fluke and they've actually got some guys and they're going to sort of compete on the world stage is good to see. I think, Coley staff, Pant staff, great to see Rashad back. I mean, I think similar to like a Boomer and an Archer, I think his absence from the game, you really forget about sort of what a player they were and what player he is. So, great to see him back. Just some big dogs for India, some big dog stuff. Scotland, pink kit's working, so what do we know? But I think my two main talking points definitely centre around that Aussie game. We did sort of wonder where to put this in terms of Oman sort of dressing down the Aussie batters. Because it's quite something to really have a go it doesn't matter if we win or lose because these blokes don't do it looking nice is probably the biggest insult you could give a better team than you. Because it's just we're trying to do it the proper way. You guys don't look nice doing it. And also, I've got no facts, no history, and no knowledge of the game in Oman. But, obviously they haven't got a lot of cricket textbooks. Haven't made its way there. Not a lot of historical footage.
Not a lot of pedigree there.
Well, just to sort of say Marnus and Steve Smith are your textbook techniques. Maybe a stretch. I don't know where Marnus's sort of SWAT levers and the Wisden 1967 guide on how to play the ball straight. But, obviously it's a bit of a spray and I rate it. And I hope they stay consistent. I reckon it's fucking funny to just stand there and go,
a boomer take.
We'll lose this, but at least Aussie won't look good doing it. Yeah, hugely.
It's a massive boomer take. It's the old school sort of defend first, attack second sort of. I'd have loved them to be 85 off 3, but just seen out a good Hazelwood spell and only let Cummins get 1, but not go for many sort of thing. They would have been having chat in the sheds boys, doesn't matter how many Hazelwood goes for as long as he doesn't get poles, those sort of chats. So, would have loved to see them just eke out a gritty 85 for 3. Show good tickers, in behind the ball, play straight, be great. Would have been exceptional. It would have been interesting to hear what was going on in the Oman camp when Stoinis was hitting 3 sixes in and over, just pure power down the ground. To his credit, Stoinis, 67 or 36, it seems like he just blasted it, which he did, but it was he probably went at about he probably scored 40 of those runs in the last sort of 15 balls. So he did sort of build his way up to that. And then just the brute force, which is, something Smith and Marnus could just never do. Like that's not happening. So I did find a funny quote, which I don't know if it's true, but I'm just going to quote it anyway because it's funny. Apparently Steve Smith in commentary was talking about how teams need anchors at this World Cup because the scores are lower, which is not untrue looking at the scores, but it's just funny because he's the anchor from Australia that got dropped. So like if they did pick the squad like Steve Smith, then you'd think that Smith would be in that squad. And then the best rebuttal was Aaron 100%. Finch saying you're right, they should have brought Marnus, which I thought was not bad.
To me, you always can do that. That's not bad at all. If I ever get into comms, I'm going to be like, geez, we could do with a clubby that just does a bit. That's sort of what this tournament needs on these. Yeah, on these poor wickets. These guys don't know how to bowl on like average wickets. All they train and play on is flat ones. So like, could do with a couple of clubbies, I reckon. But yeah, I mean, just great chirp from Finchy there. If true, obviously, and we'll be stating it as facts here at TMC. So yeah, more great stuff. But yeah.
Do you remember when Warnie used to like you'd have an absolute green seamer, be seaming sideways, and he'd be like just begging to get a spinner on because of course if it seams it spins, which is something that's been thrown around as fact, which I've never actually seen to be proven true. No. And like if it's seaming around doing a bit, keep the seamers on because they're going to do a job. Stoyan's probably the other good I'd touch on because I think he's one of those guys that like when he's bums on seats sort of cricket. Like when he's doing well, the Big Bash is a great league. If he's bowling well as well, especially that Aussie team becomes very dangerous because that's like if you've just got one proper world class all rounder, your balance is so much better at that level. So Stoyan finding a bit of form could be dangerous for the rest of the teams at the World Cup. Speaking of dangerous, your bigger thoughts on Kohli and Rohit as an opening pair? Obviously, Kohli has spent a lot of his career at 3. He has been opening for the IPL, but just optically, just looking at like Rohit and Kohli walking out together, like that is those are big guns. Like that is there's no weak link.
It's piece on the table stuff, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
You're saying here's mine. How big's yours?
Who if they're the most famous opening pair ever, who comes close? Like who are they competing with? Stephen Fleming.
To be fair, genuinely the only one. Yeah, obviously Rigger. Obviously Fleming, Lou Vincent in one day cricket. Langer Hayden's close. I honestly, I genuinely think the only close would be Tendulkar Sehwag.
Yeah,
when they used to open in white ball cricket.
Tendulkar, insert anyone else, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I could have walked out with Sachin, and it was a pretty famous duo. But like I think probably Tendulkar Sehwag is the only one, and that's probably nothing to take away from Verinder, but purely that's on Sehwag on Tendulkar, sort of as a player. So in terms of just pure duos, I think that's as big as you'll get.
Anything else you want to expand on, or do you want to sort of move on to the sort of grey area of the cup?
No, only other thing is I hope Omar backs it. Just doubles down. I hope they double down and just. I mean, if they're just going to talk shit the whole tournament, I'm all for that.
Imagine sort of going through a World Cup with your goal is like we're not going to get bowled out. We're just going to you won't bowl us out like a T20 World Cup. Like we're going to see off our 20, a real boomer thing. Like how often did we used to hear like got to bet you 50, got to bet you 50, and like I'd always be like fuck. I hope we just go 2 and over and just like 100 for 3 off 50 overs, and then what are they going to say now?
Yeah, fuck. I don't even know how many dressing rooms I've sat in at probably nearly all levels, and we've lost a game, chasing or setting, doesn't matter. and we've been bowled out before our time. And if we bat the 50, we win, boys. Like, that is bread and butter in the sheds. We've just got to bat out 50, boys.
That's such an easy throwaway line. That means fuck all.
Yeah. But when you lose by 5 and you got bowled out in the 42nd, you probably would have won if you batted your 50.
Easy to say. That's a good segue
Harder
onto the
to do.
bad, because that will probably be fair, but batting out you a lot of those will come into play over the next sort of 10 or so minutes. Okay, something bad. There was obviously an obvious one, which I'll get to, so I'll list the other ones first. I did have here Uganda getting demolished by Afghanistan, but I put that in earlier, but now that they've won, it sort of doesn't matter as much. I've also got here that the keeper has short sleeves. They'll get a pass because this is their first World Cup, but I'm just saying, like, next time, we're going to have to clean that up. We can't be, you can't be doing that. And then we haven't really touched on England, because although that game got washed out, it sort of just highlights that, there's a reason. There's actually a genuine reason why the ODI World Cup didn't go that well, and that's because their bowling's not that good. We kind of talked about how Archer might make a difference. I mean, it's a funny old game. It's a 10-over game. Stop started, so I don't want to sort of harp on about it. But it's a couple of red flags. They didn't take a poll. They got whacked around. Ironically, and this is coming from his biggest fan, but they're missing Sam Curran. They do look like they're missing Sam Curran a wee bit. I do think, like, these pitches are kind of made for him, like that sort of like cutty bowler. When you're sort of like this is a backhanded compliment, but like the not so genuine bowlers are actually quite hard to hit, if that makes sense. Like you don't need to be tall, strapping, 140 clicks, like that sort of like skiddy left arm, roll your fingers type bowler that look good in Oman. Like that's sort of right up Sam Curran's alley. So yeah, I do think they miss him. And then touched on the pitches, just pitches in general. I've got here. This is just the New York pitch. Sri Lanka, they made 77 off 19 overs. South Africa 80 for 4 off 16 overs. There was 12 boundaries in that whole match. There were 6 fours in the whole match. The total run rate for both teams was 4.42, the lowest ever in a World Cup. That might have been beaten. I'm not too sure. The most number of dot balls in a men's T20 World Cup game, 127 dot balls, the equivalent of 21 overs in maidens. Mendes made 19 off 30. Tristan Stubbs, noted 6-hitter, 13 off 28. Ireland couldn't even make 100. So, like, New York, no one's made 100 yet. Like, I know India probably would have, but the facts are the facts. No one's made 100. 2 games. West Indies pitchers, you're not that much better. Netherlands, they took 19 overs to chase 109. Uganda, they took 19 overs to chase 77. There were 7 boundaries in the entire game against PNG. Look, I'm happy for Uganda, but fucking hell, that is what a disgrace that game visually was. Shah fromUganda, he made 33 off 56 balls with 1 boundary. He got man of the match.
Oman's favourite player.
What are we doing? What's going on? These pitches are a disgrace.
We talked about it after the opening weekend that we had, like, that game in Dallas that, looked like it was played on a pretty good surface, and that sort of the pitch preparation in the States was going to be sort of the difference, I think, in the tournament in terms of like how good of a product things became. And the term regressing to expectations probably doesn't do this justice. Like, that is, to get it so right in Dallas, I think, for that first game, to then what we've sort of got now, I think it's such a big gap. It's such a big ask to get grounds that don't have cricket blocks or don't have cricket soil there, to try and get them ready in such a short amount of time. I don't know where they've got the blocks from, where they've got the strips from, but yeah, to try and get them ready for a World Cup. Like, blocks normally take a year to 18 months to bed in the soil to be good and then produce a good wicket. So the state of the wickets in the States has been very disappointing.
West Indies not much better.
No, but that's probably the problem, isn't it? Is that West Indies has been just as bad.
My biggest concern is like how do they get better? Because generally you find like these tournaments, like they start off with the fresher blocks, and you can only there's only so many pitches you can bring in. So at some point you're going to be starting to sort of recycle those same pitches. So, as most cricketers are aware, the longer you use a pitch, the worse it gets. This is what it looks like in week 1. What are we looking at in week 2, 3? Which is my real concern. Like this is concerning. I don't know what the answer is because I'm not a pitch curator, but I know what I'm looking at, and I am not liking it.
No, I think that's where the States, the venues in America get really worrying because at least in the West Indies they've got full-time ground staff. They are cricket blocks. Like they have produced good wickets. The CPL, is a good product. So there's some history there that they might figure it out. They might have just had a doozy to start with. But if that's what the States blocks are like now, I don't know how they're rejuvenating them. I don't know how they're making them better. Preparing cricket wickets isn't something you can sort of fuck up day 1, learn day 2, make a belter day 3. Like it just doesn't work like that. So hopefully they can right the ship quickly, and hopefully sort of by the Super 8 we've got some normalcy back in the wickets, because you'd hate to watch a playoff game or a game with some real implications played on a terrible wicket.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like if you bowl first, you win, which is not ideal. What the biggest question out of all this, and I put up a reel, earlier in the week, asked the question to the public, and there's a lot of differing answers. But I'm asking you now, Jacko, when you sit down and watch a game of T20 cricket, what do you want to see that? Like what needs to happen for you to go, that's a good pitch, that's a good T20 wicket?
I think there's just a contest, eh? Like I think there's got to be that contest. I think there has to be an element of, for me personally, I don't enjoy anything over about anything like 210 north of. I think just gets a bit silly for me to personally watch.
Yeah, there's a point of no return.
Yeah, I think there needs to be an element of, if a bowler, like the wicket can be tired, and if you bowl really good cutters or you bowl really good spin, that there's an element that you can be successful. And then I think if you miss, that's when you get put to the sword. So I think there needs to be that sort of, I think the sweet spot's anything between about 160 to 190, if I'm honest, for games I like to watch. Because I think that just has a contest element. Depends on the ground, but as we discussed, I've watched some unbelievable games where 140 played 135. I think as long as it's even-ish, because it is such a short amount of time, I think when I get lost for this, especially in T20s, when I get lost is it's right, that coin goes up and you know the result when the coin is landing. So if it's heads and you've called heads and you know you bowl first and you win, or whatever it may be, I think that's when you sort of start to lose people, because it is if it's a 3-hour affair, you do have to sort of commit, and you want some ebbs and flows, and you want a challenge, and you want a bit of this and that. But when it's literally coin toss goes up, winners heads, we're going to win because we're going to bowl second, I think that's when you start to lose viewers, especially. Because it is a bit of a commitment to actually sit there and watch a 3-hour game of cricket. I know, 7 hours and 5 days is way bigger, but 3 hours is still a bit of time. And if that result is sort of in the back of your mind done when the toss happens, that's when you're sort of going to lose punters. So, yeah, it needs to just come back to the toss not having a big result on the game, and then you don't know what's going to sort of play out over those 40 overs.
Yeah, the reality is it does depend. Like there's no secret source, there's no secret number. I think, there's no you can hate the IPL when it's like 250 plays 250. Well, I mean, initially it's kind of exciting because it's
still
like,
a watch.
I haven't seen this before, but I mean, it gets old pretty quick. But at the same breath, like you can also hate 80 plays 80. So like there's some obviously there's somewhere in between. I think it depends on the quality of the players. I really do personally. It's different for everyone. I think for me the greatest example I can think of like the perfect blend of players and pitch was the last World Cup between India and Pakistan. And I think that just sort of like the pitch was quick and it was probably like slightly in the favour of the bowler. But on top of that, you just had world-class attacks exploiting it. But then in the same breath, it wasn't sort of insurmountable, but it was like Kohli could step up because he's world-class. Like, because then it sort of leaves room for brilliance as well. And I think if you go as soon as you go all the way one way or the other, you lose that brilliance. You know, like sometimes when you have a high scoring game, there's room for a brilliant spell of bowling. And I think I think when you've got world class players, there's a little bit of wiggle room. I would like now one of the reasons. So the USA Canada game is a good example where that's probably more of a batting paradise, and I think that suited the talents because I thought that didn't like I would never want to see Uganda PNG again. Like that was just like I don't know if world class teams could make that a better game. Maybe they do. Maybe they get to. I mean, you can't be getting bowled out for 80. Like surely, we talk about betting your overs. Like you've got to get fucking 110 somehow. Like that's it. You're actually in the game there, surely. But I don't know. I think I do think it depends. I don't think it's a score thing, but 160, 190 seems nice.
Yeah, I think it comes down to an execution thing. I think when it's like when either really good batting, like when it becomes a contest of execution versus like can you just bowl fucking heaps of cutters or can you just bowl quick because the wicket's too fast to bat on? I think that's when it's interesting, and I don't think the score matters as much. Obviously, at the extremes it does, but I think when it becomes like a contest of execution, that's when it's good to watch. Like when you know a bowler's going to hit this area or this area, and if he misses its boundary, and it's the same with the batter. It's like when you know they're going to face some good bowling, if they don't get the bad balls and execute them and score runs off them, they're not going to score enough runs. So I think when it comes down to that being a battle of execution, that's when it's entertaining and that's when it's good to watch. But when it's just, batters just throw the kitchen sink at it and it's so fucking flat and it's not quick enough that they're never going to get challenged and they're never going to get bumped out or anything like that, or you just put your spinners on and it's turning square. I think that's when the entertainment falls out of cricket, when you lose that sort of execution battle for me.
Right, Jacko. It's the land of the free. This week we've got a top 5 action. We're going to give you a little bit of a reprieve from the top 10. It's going to be top 5. If you listened to our podcast a couple of weeks ago, we sort of rated the kits. We put them in tiers. And then since then, we've we've discussed our favourites. We wanted to know what the public thought. And so I put out a few stories, put the votes together, and then I've compiled all the T20 kits, put them in ranking order from top to bottom. And I'd like Jacko to be able to guess what kits the public have ranked their favourites, so the top 5. So same rules as normal.
Okay.
He gets 3 wrong guesses. Three wrong guesses, he's out. I don't know how we'll deal with clues. I think Jacko should be pretty close without clues, but we'll just see how we go. Any questions, Jacko?
No. I reckon this will be tougher than, because when you're not actually dealing with stats, just opinion of the masses, this could be a bit tougher. But, I can't get the ones with stats, so maybe this is my calling.
100%. So the highest ranked T20 World Cup kits ranked by our followers. Jacko, yours, please.
This is just a stab in the dark, sort of based on how the content's been going. If we talk about certain players, certain videos get a lot more views. So I'm just going to say India's got to be a top 5 for me. Surely the punters have gone India top 5.
That is probably the biggest surprise I took
Wow.
from the votes. They are actually not even close. They were
Jeez.
ranked 12th
Okay.
at 53%.
It's not a
Which
good
is
start.
No, well, that was the one thing that I was surprised. So we ranked that very highly, and the public evidently did not.
Okay. Right, so that's a big surprise. Now, just trying
That's
to think.
the biggest surprise, I think,
yeah.
if that helps.
I'm just
That's
trying to think of
biggest
our
surprise.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of our top tier and which ones I'm absolutely most certain on. And I did answer a few of the polls. Didn't answer a lot, but one I did had a big yay for the Netherlands. I'll guess them next.
Unfortunately, they just missed out. They are very
that'll do
close.
me.
They came down into
I
8 equal.
could be a goose egg here.
We may have to just keep going until you get
Not
them
that
right,
close.
which is fine. It's just what we do. So because we can sort of see what everyone else got. So they only fell out of the top 5 by 5%. So they weren't far off.
Okay, not bad. So the magic of
they
post-show editing, we can just cut my first 3 failed guesses out, and I'll look like a genius. Gav, clip that. Right, so now this really narrows down our sort of top tier because I've probably got 2 I can think of, and I think they'll both be there, but it just depends on which one I'm more certain of. We raved about it, so give me Africa. That's got to be there.
Unfortunately, that one slipped. That one's the exact same. That was 8th equal with the Netherlands. That's at 64% pro approval. That did surprise me because that was probably my favourite.
Yeah.
So that one's so we will keep going because I
Okay.
think I think you'll get a roll on and you'll start to figure this out, and I think people want to know where their kits are rated.
I'll dial into the public shortly. Right. It's surely been a New Zealand podcast. The Teal got some love, and that's top 5.
That is 4th equal. So yeah, fourth and fifth are equal. That's at 69%. So the ACC are pretty happy about that one.
Yeah, get around us.
They will be getting around that one for sure. So yes, the teal. The teal was a big. People were a big advocate of the teal. So
and as we said, the teal was always going to get as a top. The teal was going to be very nice. Right. Give me Sri Lanka next. I reckon Sri Lanka snuck in there. We rated that very highly, and I think the public will have as well.
That's second. Second at
77%
approval rating. A 77% approval rating. It's a good kit. It's hitting well. It still looks good. I really enjoyed South Africa, Sri Lanka. Not for
visually,
the cricket, but just just optics look good.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go a bit left field here on one that's growing on me a lot the more I see it. And I think the pants have played into it massively. But I'm just going to go with the Canada kit. That gets better every time I see it.
Oh, because you weren't really a fan of that initially.
No.
That came in at 10th. So it was a positive. It was a positive review. It was 57%. But it just didn't quite cut the mustard. Didn't quite compete with the big dogs.
All right, so I've got 3 left. Of those 3, would we have ranked any of them in our bottom 5 teams? Not uniforms, just teams.
Teams as in quality of players, or just their kits?
Yeah, if we ranked the World Cup teams 1 to 20, any of the top 5 kits, the bottom 5 cricket teams.
There is. They all play. No, they all play Test cricket except for. No, you only got 2 left, eh? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, one plays.
I've only got New Zealand and Sri Lanka.
One sort of used. What's that? You got New Zealand, Sri Lanka. So there's three to go.
West Indies at 1. Obviously,
they are number 1. 88% approval rating. Very interesting what the 12% were thinking. But yeah, no, they were very highly regarded. One in a landslide, so they are number 1. As the other 2, they are. One is formerly as a minnow, and one sort of used to be a minnow, sort of hovering that sort of tiptoeing that line, I think.
Okay. So has Afghanistan got some good reviews, has it?
Better than I thought. They
Right.
were 11th at 54%. I
Okay.
wasn't a biggest fan of that one. That was probably a little bit of a shock to me to say that one's better than India.
Mm.
I don't want to disagree with the public, but I think they might have got that one wrong, personally. But, customers always
All
right,
right.
I say.
Yeah. So we're tiptoeing a minnow, or a minnow that's tiptoeing is in our top 5 kits. Would their performance against England have anything to do with that sort of assumption?
It wouldn't. No,
Ah,
Scotland
okay. So it's
is
not Scotland. Must
confirmed to
be.
be a poorly reviewed kit. They're at 13th at 41%. So they are
Yeah.
they are kits that
Good
we rated highly. So they are on that sort of high
on that
echelon.
spectrum.
Yeah.
It's not bad because I can't remember any of that.
Well,
Ireland then.
if you start Ireland are equal with New Zealand at
Yeah.
69%. A little bit
Not bad.
surprised that the public rated it highly, but
Yeah.
good for Ireland. Good for Ireland. So you just got number 3. The percentage is 76%. So very high
Okay.
approval rating. Not a team that you see regularly.
Not a team you see regularly.
No. Just have nice colours. Nice
Okay.
fast colours.
Fast colours.
Fiery colours.
Is it a bit of PNG in there maybe?
PNG are at your 3 spot.
Wow, that's huge
they
from
are,
them.
Yeah, no
Just
credit. They're
quietly.
very close to second. So to round out, I think the ones we missed, we had the USA at 7th at 65%, Nepal / Dominoes at 36%, Bangladesh 23%, England 20%, Oman 20%, Uganda 18, tied with Pakistan at 18. That was quite low. I
Ooh,
don't think it was that bad, but apparently the
no.
public did. And rounding up the rear, Australia at 12% approval rating.
Yeah.
Not a
And
fan.
and as we said in the preview, I think if you flip the colours, primary and secondary, you'd flip the voting. I think you'd swap it around completely.
100%.
As sort of
100%.
Mitch Marsh showed
Righto,
by wearing the Uganda kit.
let's wrap her up. Let's wrap her up for another episode. That's us for the week. We will be back on next Monday. It'll be after India, Pakistan. Apparently
Caps.
our Super Bowl, which caps Australia, England this weekend. There's a bit going on this weekend, so stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button and enjoy the ride.
Go to Caps.